Hi guys, welcome. Danny here from the Magic Junk Drawer. So something happened, I don't know what, but I accidentally deleted the video that I did the other day on, sorry, on the ego versus the heart. So I'm going to go back to that briefly, and then I'm going to discuss toxic people and toxic relationships. So the difference between making your decisions between fear and love, think of it like this. Human beings make decisions from two places, fear or love. And if you think about any situation in your life, you'll realize that that's true. For example, if you're at a job and the job pays you, let's say for example, the job pays you $10 an hour. If another job offers you $20 an hour, you have to make a decision. Are you going to stay at the first job where you're comfortable, where you've been there for 10 years, where you know what to expect, what you can get away with? Or are you going to take a chance and take the new job? You'll be making twice as much money at the new job. So the person that declines the new job, hey, how are you? The person that declines the new job is making their decision out of fear. The person that accepts the new job is making the relationship, making the decision out of love. And if you think about it, it's every situation that you're in, you have a choice. If you're in a bad relationship, but you're not leaving, chances are you're making the decision out of fear. Whether you're afraid to be alone, you may be afraid of not finding somebody else. I've told the story before about my friend who was dating that guy. Towards the end of their relationship, she didn't even like him anymore. She's like, the sound of him breathing made me want to stab him. Like, those are her words to me. She wanted to stab him. And when he broke up with her, she was devastated. She was devastated and she was depressed over it for years. And she knew that she didn't want to be with him. But she felt like she would never be with anyone else. So that's where her, the depression came from. Fear of not being with anyone else. And she wasn't with anybody for a really long time. But you know what? Eventually she was. So you have to think of it like that. Is it better to stay in a situation where you're unhappy and you're going to continue to stay unhappy? Or is it better to take a chance and maybe find happiness? So that's the difference between making the decisions between fear and the decision between love. If you love yourself enough, you'll risk being comfortable to move on to something that could be better. I'm having trouble keeping the camera from going sideways. I always have some technical difficulties, so that's not uncommon. Now, the ego. This is what I want to talk about, the ego. Because I read tarot cards and because I have a lot of people that, have questions. And listen, we've all been in this situation. I'm not going to say that anyone hasn't been in this situation where they're with somebody and the relationship is working really well and one person either breaks up with them or something happens and now all of a sudden all of the secrets come out. So you might hear something like, and you may have had friends or you may even have said this to somebody yourself. Yeah, he's lied to me, he's stood me up, he's let me down, he's this, he's that. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, but I love him. Am I going to see him again? And my question always is, do you really love him? Or is it that your ego is wounded? Your ego is wounded because he blew you off for someone else, or he blew you off for whatever reason, and it hurts your ego. So you want him back because your ego wants him back. If you can give me a couple of reasons why you love this person, and I always ask people these questions, especially when it comes down to doing like love spells, you want to be careful here with what you wish for because you just may get it. So make sure that you really love this person and it's not that your ego is wounded, and a bruised ego, you'll get over it. You don't want to get stuck with a stalker or somebody who won't let you go, for the next 10 years because your ego is a little wounded, because you don't want that. Then we got to do a banishing spell and then it's just a whole lot of work. But anyway, so the point is that ask yourself this. Now, soulmate relationships, the difficult relationships. So if you feel like you have a connection to somebody, I'm not going to tell you that you don't just because he did something stupid. And the example that I gave in the last video that I accidentally deleted because I don't know how that happened, but whatever, was from my favorite movie of all time, A Star is Born, but the original, it's not the original one. The movie's been done several times, but this one was done in the 70s, and it's with Barbra Streisand and Kris Kristofferson. So if you've never seen the movie, I highly recommend it. I mean, it's a fabulous movie, and there's a scene. Basically, the story is he's a rock star. She's a nobody singing in like a coffee shop or a nightclub, but she's nobody. And he meets her and they fall in love, and he makes her a star, and she becomes a bigger star than he is. And anyhow, so basically the movie is him dealing with her being bigger than he is when he was the rock star. And it's his ego that winds up destroying everything. And there is a scene. See, it's hard for me to hold the camera because I have to talk with my hands. I know, it's like an Italian thing, but I gotta talk with my hands. So there's a scene where, I don't know where Barbara is, but she's out. Her name's Esther in the movie. Esther's out, and she comes home and she finds there is a naked reporter swimming in their swimming pool. So obviously she knows that he's been with this woman. She's young. Now, this is the point. John Norman was acting from his ego. It felt really good at that moment to be with that young reporter. It felt really good to let Esther know that he was with this woman. It made him feel like the rock star that he was. But it didn't mean anything. You know, it's like that's the contradiction in life. Oh, so they hooked up. Big deal. It should mean something. And when it means something, it means something. But when it doesn't, it doesn't. And he could see her on the street tomorrow and not even know who she was. And in this moment, Esther knows that this was just something that, you know, it felt good. It made his ego feel good. So sometimes we make decisions from that place. I mean, we're human. We have egos. You're not perfect. And that's why it's always a question as to whether or not you're making the decision from your ego or you're making the decision because you truly love this person. Because sometimes I'll hear people give me a whole list of things. He lied to me, cheated on me, he took my best friend to Cancun, he stole from me, this, that, and the next thing. Oh, but I really love him. Do you really love him? Because give me something that you love about him. Before we do a love spell and we can't get rid of this guy, give me something that you love about him. So, and that's something that you have to decide. I'm not going to tell anybody that you don't have a connection to this person if you feel like you do. If you feel like you do, then that's legit. You know, your feelings are legit. Okay, so if you have any questions about that stuff, you can always comment below. And also, I'm always available through email, leomoon2588@gmail.com, because sometimes people don't want to put themselves on blast on the internet, and that's cool. I will never repeat anything or use your name or anything, so don't worry. So the other thing that somebody suggested that I talk about were toxic relationships and toxic people. So this is quite interesting because I always knew that in my relationships with men, I tend to give more. I tend to be kind of motherly and like take care of the person. But I didn't realize that I did it in all of my relationships. I mean, even if I look back to my relationship with my mother, I was more of the mother and she was more of the child. I had to take care of her more so than she took care of me in a lot of ways. So that took a long time for me to really get a handle on. And I think that when it comes to toxic people, you have to really think about whether or not you want to keep these people in your life. I mean, it's very easy for me to say, cut them out of your life, don't deal with them. Yeah, that's easy, but it's not always so realistic. So if you have somebody in your life, especially if it's your mother, you know, or, you know, your brother or your sister or somebody close to you, it's not always so easy to just cut them out of your life. I mean, it's nice to say that. Banish them and put them in the back of the closet. But sometimes you just have to at least then you have to do a banishing spell. Put them in the back of the closet. Any jars that you come across in my home, don't open them. You don't want to open up that Pandora's box. Okay, so if you have a toxic person in your life and there's somebody that you just can't cut out, because sometimes that's more dramatic than actually having to deal with them. The best thing that I think that you can do is keep them at a distance and don't tell them what you're doing. You know, for example, like growing up, right? I had a lot of fantasies in my head. One of the biggest ones is that when I turned 18, I was moving to LA and I was going to be a rock star. And I believed this. I was going to be a rock star. Let me tell you this. I mean, I played the guitar, I played the piano, I sang. I was going to be a rock star. And the people in my family were like, I think that maybe you should just get a job and go to work. There was no encouragement there. Now, my rock star dream may have been a little bit far-fetched, but there are millions of people that are rock stars. There are millions of people that are rock stars. There are some people, I don't even think they have good voices. Like Bruce Springsteen is not known to be a great vocalist, but he is one of the highest, people love him. People love him, and I do not consider him to be a good vocalist. Now, I'm going to tell you this. The Grateful Dead is my favorite band. I love them to pieces. I think the words, the lyrics, the music, I think it's all beautifully written. But since I've been studying the voice for so long and my ear has gotten better, I've come to realize that their live performances, their vocals are not so good. I mean, there's studios, because in the studio you can fix it. But their live performances, their vocals are not that good. People love them. People travel the world to see them. They have an amazing following, even now, 40 years later, 50 years later. So it's not always about being the best, and it's not always about having the best voice, the best look. Sometimes people just like you, and people just like Bruce Springsteen. I mean, I like his music. I'm not the biggest fan. I mean, I would like a lot of his stuff, but you know, sometimes there's more that goes into it. I mean, the acting world needs all kinds of actors in all shapes, sizes, and everything else. So there is no reason why, you know, somebody can be encouraged and somebody else shouldn't be encouraged. Everybody should be encouraged, because that's what we should do, encourage each other. But growing up, I don't feel like I had a lot of encouragement in my life. And I think a lot of it was kind of toxic. So I totally understand when people say things about toxic relationships and being stuck with toxic people, because these are people I wouldn't cut out of my life. They were looking at things more realistically. They wanted me to be in a job that was stable, that I wasn't going to have to worry about where my next meal was coming from. I understand where they were coming from, but there was no encouragement. There was also no, you can do it, I believe in you, I'm proud of you. It was like, get a job and go to work. That's pretty much the way that I was brought up. And not to say that there's anything wrong with it, but when you have other things that you want to do and you're being told not to, and then you hear other people's stories. I mean, there are some people with God-given talents. Like, I believe that Christina Aguilera's got one of the best singing voices. I just think that that was given to her, whether she's worked on it or not. Mariah Carey is another one. She also grew up with a mother who was an opera singer, so she grew up with it. But there are other people that were not born with that kind of a gift, and they just worked for it. And they worked for it, and they polished it, and they became who they are. And they were encouraged. So when somebody is not supporting your dreams, no matter how far-fetched or how silly they may seem to them, you need to distance yourself from this person at least enough to not let them know what's going on. It's fine. It's fine not to tell your mother that you're auditioning for Broadway if you don't think that she's going to stand behind you. It's fine. It's fine to not tell people what's going on, because it's actually even suggested. The law of attraction coaches will tell you, don't tell anybody, because you don't need their negativity. You really don't need other people's negativity. We have enough self-doubts ourselves that come from other people, right? Because when we were little kids, right? Little kids are awesome. And I remember when I was a little kid, all I ever did was sing and dance, and hours and hours. But instead of cultivating my love for music, my mother sent me for ice skating lessons. I mean, why? Does anybody know? Did I ever once say I wanted to be an ice skater? I actually used to cry when I went to ice skating lessons because I was afraid I was going to get hurt. And I fell one time and I hit my head, and I was very upset about this. So why I was put into ice skating lessons was probably more of a dream that she had than I ever had. Because if my kid was playing with a record, I mean, I couldn't even read. That's how young I was. I knew, this is so funny, I knew that I heard it through the grapevine had a purple label. And I knew that the Cher record had a black label with a rainbow on it. So I knew by the labels what each record was. But I couldn't read. I was a baby. But I could work that record player like nobody's business. So why wasn't that cultivated? It wasn't because my mother didn't think it was important. So when somebody doesn't think that your dreams or your aspirations are important, then you need to not put all your eggs in that basket and get kicked in the gut over and over again. You know, find somebody that will support your dreams. Like somebody landed on the moon. Somebody became an astronaut and walked on the moon. Several people did. And nobody told them that they couldn't do it. So watch the toxic people in your life that are either, or not only are they maybe not encouraging you, but telling you that you can't do it. I don't know why this always used to come up. But when I wanted to go for acting lessons when I was a kid, my mother always used to say to me, "Who do you think you are, Suzanne Summers?" I don't know why Suzanne Summers. I have no idea why, but that's the name that was thrown at me all the time. Now, you have to wonder, was it coming from a place where the acting world is a tough business, and maybe she was being protective? Maybe she was worried that I wasn't going to be able to support myself. I don't know, and she's been dead too long for me to ask. But the point is that there are other people that were encouraged. And that's why they went for it. And you have to always think, if somebody is not supporting you in whatever it is that you want, even if they think it's silly, they can think it's silly, that's fine. I mean, come to find out so many years later that my uncle was in beauty school. Now, if you've ever met my uncle, he's a mechanic. And he was like, as long as I've known him, had Harleys, Camaros, racing cars. Who the hell was going to make that guy a beautician? I mean, it just wasn't him. I have no idea. But I found paperwork or something when I was going through my mother's stuff. And I was like, he was in beauty school? What? So somebody, my grandmother probably, who wanted a team of hairdressers and beauticians working on her, sent her children to beauty school because that's what she wanted. So it might take a little bit of time for you to exactly point out which people are really toxic and not supportive in your own life. Now, another form of toxic relationship. My ex-boyfriend and I, now really, we went through a crazy year. We started dating, and the first year was fine. And then the second year, my grandfather died. My mother got sick. My mother died. My cousin was killed and his brother died, all in a span of 13 months. So you can understand here why we were a little bit at each other's throats. It was a really rough year. So after his brother died, he started hanging out with old friends that didn't live around here. They lived in this city. And we got to this point in our relationship where the first year we were always together. Every weekend we were together. He was here all the time. And we got to a point after all we've experienced all these deaths where he just wanted to hang out with his friends. And I was working on the weekends. And even if I wasn't working, there was a lot of friction between his friends and me. They didn't like me. I wasn't part of the clique, whatever. And my relationship with him became very toxic. So I'll explain to you what I mean. So I didn't have a problem with him hanging out with his friends. And I would say to him, well, why don't you go and hang out with them on Friday and then come back and hang out with me on Saturday? And he would agree to it. And then what would happen is he wouldn't come back on Saturday. So now Saturday, I would be waiting for him somewhere, whether it's the neighborhood bar at the time I was hanging out at, or it was at my house. Wherever it was, he wouldn't show up. And I would get ripping livid, like I wanted to tear his head off because I was so mad at him for doing this to me. And the relationship now, so that would be like, we'd be fighting Saturday, Sunday. Come Wednesday, everything would be fine again. And then we would relive this situation again on the weekend. And this went on for quite some time. I can't tell you exactly how long. I don't really remember. Maybe a year, maybe even longer than that, where he would make these promises and then he would not fulfill them. And instead of me getting to the point where I could have just said to him, you know what, you obviously don't want this. You obviously don't want this. So let's just not do it anymore. You know what, you go with your friends, I'll go with my friends, and have a good life. But I, at that moment, felt, because of course, everybody else's feelings came before mine, I felt like he had just gone through a really bad experience and loss, and I didn't want to do that to him. So once again, I put his needs and his wants and what I thought was better for him ahead of my own, something that I still do, something that I've done my whole life. So I waited for him to break up with me. But even when he broke up with me, he didn't really break up with me. He broke up with me. He said, we're not going to be together anymore. But yet he was here every day, and he was calling me every day, and he wanted to know where I was all the time. So this is what I'm talking about, how it starts to get toxic, because now he wants to have what he wants, when he wants it, how he wants it, and for how long he wants it. But when he wants to go, he wants to go. And me, I was putting up with it because, once again, his needs were more important than mine. So this is how, things start to get really, really toxic. And then resentful. You get resentful because you're like, you know what? Last year wasn't the easiest year of my life either. And it's all about you and what you want. Well, what about what I need? So it becomes resentful, toxic, angry. There was a lot of anger there. So seeing the signs and being able to put yourself first definitely takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of strength, because these people, they can suck all of your energy. Well, that's another topic that we'll get to. But it can be very draining. When you think you're being fair and saying, okay, you go with your friends on Friday, I'll see you back here at 5 o'clock on Saturday, and then the person doesn't show up, it's like kicking you in the face over and over again. And then how many times did I need him to do it to me? How many times? And I never did put my foot down. I mean, I would yell at him, but he didn't care. He just did it again the next week. So you have to take notice of these people that are in your life that are being very toxic and causing a lot of anger and a lot of resentment. It takes a lot to let go of resentment and anger when somebody has mistreated you for so long and when you thought you were doing the right thing by them. So that's that. Now, people that suck your energy, like energy vampires, like there are people that you can spend 10 minutes with and you feel like you just ran a marathon and you're so exhausted that you just feel like you could sleep for a month. These people are like energy zappers. They're like energy vampires. They suck all the life out of you. It's the kind of person that usually has a lot of energy. They come in and they're like screaming and yelling about something. And it's always all about them. Like you could be on the phone with this person for 5 hours and you didn't even get a word in edgewise. And they're repeating the same story over and over again. It takes a lot out of you to listen to all this. So this also can become toxic. So where do you draw the line? I mean, I'm in a tough place because me as a human being, I want to help people. And I want to be there for people that need that kind of help. But on the other hand, I can't spend a month sleeping because you sucked all my energy out. So where do you draw the line? So my advice when you have to deal with people like that is give them a certain amount of time and then that's it. So, like, if you're going to speak to them on Monday, you give them an hour and then that's it. Don't speak to them again until the following Monday because they just take too much out of you. And you have to take care of yourself first. And it's the same thing with toxic people. If you meet up with a friend and you're telling your friend about your new job, your new boyfriend, your new this, and the person's answer to you is, well, that job sounds like shit and you're not getting paid a lot of money, and your new boyfriend sounds like an asshole, and then we don't need this. We don't need this. Because it's not helpful, and everyone needs to make their own mistakes, and everyone needs to lead their own lives. So if your new job is not paying you enough and your new boyfriend's a shithead, you're going to have to learn that on your own. Nothing anyone else is going to say is going to help it make you see things the way they see them. All it's going to do is upset you, aggravate you, and bring you down. And negative people feed off of more negativity. Surround yourself with people that are positive, and you'll start to have more positive experiences, and you'll feel more positive. Surround yourself with negative people, and that's where you're going. And that's why, for myself, I've had to cut some people out of my life just because they're too negative, or I have to keep them at a distance because it's too much negativity to take in. And you can really get weighed down. Like when somebody is complaining about their life and they do nothing to better themselves and their life really isn't that bad. All right, so you've had a couple of heartbreaking situations, who hasn't? But there are some people that are struggling to pay their bills, and there are people that, they have sick family members and they have to go to work. I mean, my mother was dying. I still had to go to work, and I worked 2 jobs. Other people have it much easier where they can stay home with their relative, or they could take time with their relative. I mean, we didn't have that, my brother and I. Even a sick relative, you can only do so much of that because it's very hard. So you have to know when I've had enough and I have to remove myself from this right now because it's a lot to take on. You always have to think. Remember the situation when you get on a plane. They tell you if those oxygen masks drop, you put yours on first and then you take care of those around you. You put yours on first because if you don't, you're going to drop dead and you will be not good to anybody, not even yourself. So what good is that? So think of that. When you're in a situation with somebody and they're sucking the life out of you, or it's toxic and you're angry and you're fighting and you just feel like you've been used, abused, mistreated, back away from them. Back away from them. You don't have to cut them out and make it a big dramatic thing. Just make yourself a little bit less available. All right. If you like what we're doing here at the Magic Junk Drawer, don't forget to like and subscribe. Share us with your friends. And thank you for watching. And I'm going to be making the ladder video, meditation one. I'm going to do that next. I'm not going to be in it. It's just going to be the meditation because I had a request for it and I want it available so people can use it at their leisure. And if you have any success with it, which I know you will because everybody has success with the ladder one. I've heard a million stories. Don't forget to comment below, or you can email me. All right, thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye.